They returned with no army marching, no war cry, no demands, only the truth. And sometimes, the truth is louder than war. Seen across the galaxy, change begins. On council planets, people took to the streets. Not with weapons, but with questions. Why did you hide this? Why did you erase them? Schools rewrote their history books. News stations replayed the human broadcast again and again. On one world, a child asked, "Are the humans heroes or monsters?" A teacher answered with tears in her eyes. They were hurt and still chose peace. That makes them something more than heroes. Seen, council divided. In the Galactic Council, chaos ruled. Some wanted to shut down the humans again. Some wanted peace. But one voice, quiet and calm, changed everything. It was Rectal. He stood before the council, eyes clear. "I was one of the scholars who laughed," he said. "I was taught that humans were too violent. But now I see, we feared what we didn't understand, and they forgave what we never admitted." The room went silent. Seen, human fleet. The final transmission. From the human fleet came one last message. Simple, powerful. "We will not rule you. We will not stay, but we will watch. Because peace must be protected, and truth must be remembered." And just like that, the human ships turned. Silently, like shadows in the stars. They vanished. No war, no victory. Just a message that would echo forever. Seen, years later, Rectal's lecture hall. Rectal now taught young minds. He stood before hundreds of students. He pointed to a picture of the Earth. "This," he said, "was the planet they came from. But what they became is something far greater." He looked up at the stars. "They could have destroyed us. They chose to teach us." Narrator's final reflection. In the end, the humans didn't need to conquer. They didn't need revenge. They only needed the galaxy to know one thing. They survived. They remembered. And they forgave. And that changed everything. Forever. The human fleet stayed silent. No weapons fired. No soldiers marched. But their message was louder than war. A message the galaxy could not ignore. Seen, the human broadcast begins. One by one, every planet, rich, poor, central, outer, had their skies filled with the same image. A woman appeared on every screen. Old, strong, human. She had kind eyes, but her voice was sharp. She said, "To those who forgot us, we did not return for revenge. We returned for truth. We want your people to hear our story, the real one, not the one your leaders buried." Seen, the human history revealed. The next image shook the galaxy. It showed the first alien invasion of Earth, ships falling from the sky. Then it showed human cities burning. But humans fought back. They used broken tools, old machines, fire and grit, and they won. Then another scene played. Alien leaders signing secret agreements, covering up the truth, declaring the humans were dangerous. They destroyed themselves, but that was a lie. Humans had survived, and they left Earth in silence, to heal. Seen, galactic public reeks ***. On thousands of planets, people watched in shock. Some cried, some turned away. Some whispered, "We were lied to." Young aliens asked, "Why didn't we learn this in school?" Protests started. People wanted answers from their leaders. The lie was breaking. Seen, council in panic. In the Great Hall, council members argued again. This could destroy everything. We must stop their signal. It's too late. The truth is out. One voice, deep and cold, said, "End the broadcast. Now." But before they could act, another message appeared. This time, it came from hundreds of ships at once. Seen, the final words of the message. A new human spoke. This one, young, his face serious, his voice calm. He said, "You erased our stories. You painted us as monsters. But still, we didn't attack. We showed you the truth, and now the galaxy must choose. Fear us or understand us. We are not your enemies. We are your mirror." Scene: Rektal's reflection. Rektal watched it all unfold. He remembered laughing at humans. He remembered thinking they were nothing but violent myths. But now he felt shame and respect. He whispered, "They didn't return to rule us. They returned to remind us who we really are." Narrator's final line. The greatest power humans ever had wasn't their strength, wasn't their fire. It was their ability to survive pain and turn it into something greater. They had called humans a myth, a violent story, a mistake erased from time. But now, after 1,000 years of silence, they were coming back. Scene: Galactic Outer Rim. Sensor Station 9. 2 alien officers sat bored in their control room. Nothing ever happened on the edge of space. Suddenly, the radar blinked red. 1 dot, then 2, then hundreds. "Is this a glitch?" one asked. The other leaned closer. "No, it's a formation. Rows, perfect angles, silent movement. No ID tags, no transmissions, just a single word attached to the signal. Origin, Earth sector." Scene: inside one of the human ships, silent and dark. Inside the lead ship, the walls were dark gray. No music, no flashing lights, just focus. Human commanders stood in silence. No shouting, no fear, only calm. One of them spoke. "We are not here to conquer. We are here to remind them. We are still here." Scene: Galactic Council. Emergency session. The council chamber was in chaos. They're not supposed to exist. Why now? What do they want? One old voice said, "We erased their history, lied about their wars, mocked their pain." Another whispered, "And now they remember." An emergency alert lit the screen. Return fleet entering neutral space. Scene: Rektal watching the news. Rektal sat frozen in front of his holoscreen. The headline read, "Humans return after 1,000 years. Galactic responds in HFY." He whispered to himself. They waited, and now they've come back. He remembered the human words from the old recording. "We do not forget. We do not forgive. We do not fall twice." Scene: fleet moves over a council planet. Silent warning. The human ships didn't fire. They didn't send threats. They just hovered over the most powerful council planet, like ghosts, watching, waiting. The people below stared up at the sky, trembling, not because of an attack, but because of what it meant. The forgotten had returned. Scene: Council sends a message. The council sent a message. State your purpose. There was no answer for hours. Then a simple message appeared on every screen in every language. "We remember. You lied. We forgave. But we never left." Scene: Rektal's realization. Rektal finally understood. The humans didn't come to destroy. They came to show the truth, to prove they had never been monsters. They were survivors. And now, they wanted the galaxy to see what they had become. Narrator's voice returns. They called them dangerous, too emotional, too violent. But the real danger was that they had the strength to come back from all of it. And now the galaxy had to face what it tried to bury. Rektal had seen the forbidden memory. He now knew what the Galactic Council had tried to hide for generations. The humans had not been destroyed. They had been feared. Feared so much that the entire galaxy agreed to erase them from history. But there was one more question burning in Rektal's mind. If they survived, where did they go? Scene: Hidden files. The final search. Rectal broke into the archives one last time. This time, he didn't look for history. He searched for coordinates. He typed, human relocation, galactic level black. At first, nothing appeared. Then, a single file blinked. Project Silence, Human Exodus. He opened it, and what he read made his blood freeze. Scene, Secret Government Record, Project Silence. The file explained everything. The humans had not vanished. They had left Earth on purpose. They built secret fleets, silent ships, hidden stations beyond mapped space. They called it the final retreat, not because they were running, but because they were preparing. Preparing for the day the galaxy would forget them. And then, they would return. Scene, Black Box Transmission, Human Voice Recording. Rectal played a voice file attached to the project. A deep, calm human voice spoke. If you find this, you've broken your silence. We gave you peace. We gave you a chance to grow without fear, but we never stopped watching. And if you ever try to erase us again, you won't get a second warning. Scene, Rectal alone, thinking in the dark. Rectal sat in silence. The humans had not just survived. They had evolved. They were now ghosts in the galaxy, unseen, unheard, but watching everything. They had learned from their pain. They had used their suffering to build something unbreakable. He whispered, they didn't just survive war. They became something beyond war. Scene, Meeting with Professor Nemeron again. Rectal returned to the high tower. Professor, he said, they're still out there. Nemeron didn't look surprised. I know, he replied. I've always known. Why didn't you tell anyone? Nemeron looked out at the stars. Because no one believed they'd come back, and I feared what would happen if they did. Scene, Galactic Council Hall emergency meeting. Far away, on a different planet, alarms were going off. A strange signal had been picked up. Old Earth tech. Ancient, but active. The council members argued. Is it them? After all this time, they shouldn't exist anymore. A single red alert blinked on the giant screen. Unknown FLEE, AP Pro Ching. No RESPONSC. No SIJNL. ESTMAT de Origin. Earth CC2R. The room went silent. Scene, Rectal's voice. Closing words. Rectal looked up at the night sky. He felt no fear anymore. Only truth. They laughed at human pain. They buried their stories. But now, the ones they erased have returned. Narrator's final line. They thought they could forget the past, but the past was watching. And the past had teeth. Rectal had seen too much. More than any student was supposed to see. More than the professors allowed anyone to know. He had touched the fire of human history. And now, someone knew he had touched it. Scene, Rectal's room. Early morning. A new message blinked on Rectal's screen. Final warning. Level 5 archive violation. Your access will be revoked. He stared at it. No anger. No fear. Just one thought. What are they trying to hide? He knew there were deeper files. Files even more secret than the ones he had seen. But they were locked. Code sealed. Protected by something ancient. He typed one word. Forbidden Earth Records. Origin logs. Nothing opened. Just a dark screen. And then, one file appeared. Access denied. For Galactic Council eyes only. Scene, Rectal talks to the silent professor. Rectal left his room and went to the one place students were never supposed to go. The high tower of knowledge. At the top, behind a silver door, lived Professor Nemeron, the oldest scholar in the knowledge ring. He was silent, wise, and never laughed. Rectal entered quietly. Professor, he said, voice shaking, I need to know the truth about humans. Nemeron did not look surprised. He closed his eyes for a moment and sighed. You opened the vaults, he said. Rectal nodded. Nemeron slowly walked to a shelf and pulled out a black crystal. This is not digital, he said. It cannot be hacked. It holds a memory from a time before the Council banned Earth's truth. Scene. The crystal memory begins. Rectal touched the crystal. A new world opened. Not just videos. Feelings. Sounds. Smells. Voices. He was inside the memory. He stood on a human battlefield. Fire all around. Smoke in the air. Machines broken. People screaming. But in the middle of it all, a human woman stood tall. She looked into the eyes of her enemy. She said, "You came to conquer us. You thought we were weak. But we are humans. And we do not die easy." Scene. Memory shifts. First contact with aliens. The vision changed. Now he saw a young human boy reaching out to an alien creature. A peaceful moment. Then soldiers appeared, alien soldiers. They shot the boy. The humans fought back. And so began a war no one talked about. Rectal pulled away from the crystal, heart pounding. Your kind attacked them first, he said. Professor Nemeron nodded slowly. And they won, he whispered. Scene. The forbidden truth. Rectal sat in silence. You mean, they weren't just violent. They were attacked, and they won. Nemeron walked to the window. Not only did they win, he said, they refused to join the Galactic Empire. They said, we will not be ruled by those who fear our past. So what happened? The old professor turned, voice heavy with regret. We erased them. Scene. Rectal's conflict. Back in his room, Rectal stared at the stars again. He felt cold inside. Everything he had been taught was a lie. The humans hadn't destroyed themselves. They had fought back, and the Empire had covered it all. Not because humans were evil, but because they were strong. Too strong. Narrator's voice returns. The truth was buried for a reason. It wasn't because humans were monsters. It was because they survived monsters. And that kind of strength terrified the galaxy. The world outside the dome was quiet. But inside Rectal's mind, there was a storm. He had seen human history with his own eyes. Not fiction. Not exaggeration. Real pain. Real war. And that was only the beginning. Scene. Rectal's room. Next morning. Rectal couldn't sleep. The videos played again and again in his thoughts. Gas bombs. Screaming soldiers. Cities on fire. He sat in the dark, holding his tablet, eyes wide open. How could they do this? He whispered. How could they survive this? He felt something strange. Not just fear, but respect. They were not monsters. They were fighters. Scene. Galactic Library. Rectal breaks in again. He returned to the archives. This time, deeper. He entered using the hidden back door in the system. No alarms. Not yet. He searched. Earth. Total War. Class 5 records. The files that appeared were worse than anything he had seen. World War I. The Holocaust. Nuclear testing. Civil genocide. Biological weapons. He clicked one after another. Scene. Holocaust footage. Men, women, and children. Taken to camps. Crying. Sick. Trapped behind barbed wire. The screen read. 6 million killed. Not by war. By hate. Rectal looked away. He covered his mouth. His hands were shaking. Why did no one tell us this? He asked. Why did they erase this from history? Scene. Video. The Atomic Age. He played another file. 2 cities. Hiroshima and Nagasaki. 1 bomb each. 1 second of light. And then, nothing left but dust. The sky turned black. A man on screen, a human general, said, "We made peace by showing how far we could go." Scene, emotional moment. Rectal feels the weight asterisk asterisk. Rectal paused the video. Tears formed in his alien eyes, something rare for his kind. Not just sadness, shame. The scholars had laughed. They had mocked Earth like it was a bad joke. But humans had suffered in ways most species couldn't imagine. And they had come back from it. That was the part that scared him most. Scene, outside dome. Rectal watches other students laughing. He walked past a group of scholars. They were still joking about humans. Maybe they ate each other too. Probably fought over food like beasts. Rectal stopped walking. He turned to them and said quietly, "You should see the truth before you laugh." They stared at him. One said, "Are you still watching those fake files?" Rectal replied, "They're not fake. They're scars. You just haven't looked deep enough." Scene, night. Rectal receives a warning message. Back in his room, a message flashed on his tablet. Access logged. Level 5 archives triggered. Security Council notified. His heart dropped. "They know I saw the truth," he whispered. But he didn't care. Because truth was more important now. He opened one last file. Scene, video. Human survivors rebuilding Earth. The screen showed broken buildings, destroyed streets. But then, people helping each other, rebuilding. Children learning in tents. Doctors healing wounded strangers. And one message at the end. "We survived hell, so we could build something better." Narrator's voice returns. The scholar said human history was fake. Too violent. Too extreme. But Rectal had seen it. And now he understood something they didn't. Humans were not dangerous because they fought. They were dangerous because they learned from it. And someone had worked very hard to hide that truth. Far from Earth, in the peaceful heart of the Galactic Knowledge Ring, a class of young alien scholars sat inside a shining white learning dome. They were smart. They were proud. And above all, they believed they knew everything. Their lesson today was about extinct species, and one species made them laugh louder than all the rest. Humans. Professor Selniks, an old blue-skinned being with 4 eyes and a long neck, floated gently across the room. He tapped the glowing screen behind him. "Now, class," he said with a smile, "let us study the most dramatic case of extinction. The humans of planet 342X, once called Earth." The students chuckled. "They destroyed themselves with wars every few centuries," he continued. "They built weapons to burn their skies and poison their own oceans." One student raised a hand. "But is that real? No species can be that foolish." The class burst into laughter. "Exactly," said Selniks. "That's why many believe human history was exaggerated. Most likely, their stories were myths. Made up. Their wars too extreme to be real." Another student joked, "Maybe they fought each other just to stay entertained." More laughter followed. But one student, sitting quietly near the back, didn't laugh. His name was Rectal. He was different from the others. Where they saw comedy, he saw questions. Scene. Later that day, inside Rectal's quarters. Rectal sat alone in his chamber, staring at the holographic tablet in his hands. He replayed a short clip shown during the lesson. It showed humans in strange uniforms, muddy and tired, running through trenches. Explosions behind them. Gas masks on their faces. Smoke in the air. And something else. Pain. It wasn't funny. It didn't look fake. Rectal whispered to himself, "What if it was real?" Scene. Late night. Forbidden archives. The knowledge ring was quiet at night. Most scholars rested. But Rectal didn't. He had heard a rumor that the real human records were not public, that the truth was kept hidden in the restricted memory vault. He had no permission to access it, but he had built his own code. And tonight, he used it. The doors opened with a soft hum. The lights inside were low and cold. A giant database stood in front of him. Millions of files, billions of images, so many sealed with warning signs. But he didn't stop. He searched. Human history. War. Level red. A list appeared. World War I. World War II. Cold War. Nuclear threat. Civil wars. Digital conflicts. Artificial intelligence revolt. His hand trembled. These are real, he said softly. Scene. First video file. World War I. He opened the first file. The screen showed black and white images, soldiers covered in mud, trenches filled with water, rats crawling over food, letters from home soaked in tears, screams, explosions, gas choking entire fields, and at the bottom of the screen, death count 20 million. Rektal's eyes widened. He could feel something strange in his chest. Fear, sadness, both. He whispered, "Why would anyone do this to their own kind?" Scene. Second file. Hiroshima. He opened another file. A single bomb. A single flash. And then, a city turned into ash. Children running. Mothers screaming. Shadows burned into walls. The video ended with a sentence. One bomb. 100,000 souls. Gone in seconds. Rektal stood up. His breath was heavy. No, this can't be a lie. Scene. Alarm sounds. Unauthorized access detected. Suddenly, the archive flashed red. Unauthorized user DTECTED. Rektal panicked. He shut the console and ran. But he had already seen enough. The laughter from class still rang in his ears. And now, it felt wrong. Very wrong. Scene. Outside. Night sky above the dome. Rektal looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, Earth used to shine. Now it was dust. Or so they said. But Rektal now knew it was not dust from nature. It was dust from war. From choice. From memory. He whispered into the dark sky. If humans were real, and this was their truth, why did no one tell us? Narrator ends. They laughed because they didn't understand. But now, one of them did. And truth, once seen, cannot be unseen.